Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of 2024. January 2nd, it's 5:30-ish. The first order of business is we have one select board member remote tonight, and a second one is not with us. So we're 3 present and 1 remote. Our first order of business are the select board minutes from December the 18th. We have 2 sets of minutes, the regular and executive session. I would entertain a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion?
Tom has his hand up. Let me finish. Tom, unmute yourself, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Sorry I can't be there, but I don't think you want COVID. So, under the budget FY25 update, I just wanted to have some clarity as far as what our motion said there. So if you go to the where it says Jim made a motion to set legal fees. See that? So the legal fees is from FY24 budget for $10,000 for the appeal of the Sunnymeade Act 250 permit.
Okay. So you're inserting Sunnymeade and changing.
I'm trying to make it a little clearer.
Yep.
Because it was from the FY24 budget that we're using those funds.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know if Jim considers that to be unfriendly or not.
No, I think that's just a clarification.
I had also highlighted it as well to be clear about it. So thank you, Tom, on that point. Cheyenne, under the interim town manager update, the next to last sentence of the paragraph says Tom reached out to 4 different towns. I think we should identify Tom as Tom General. Okay.
I would like to know on the record that why I voted against the budget was over salaries or wages.
Correct. The cost of living and
cost, and I didn't think it was adequate.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or changes?
I'm going to amend my motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, as well as the executive session minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Going on to the warrants for the accounts payable for through today. Entertain a motion to accept the invoices up to January 2nd.
So moved.
Thank you. Jim, a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Clyde. Any discussion?
Just a couple of random questions to get Martin warmed up. So a couple of big ticket items, the screen sand for 45K.
Yes. Yeah. So we buy the sand, but we run it through screening. E&D runs it through screening to make sure it takes out all the rocks and anything that would be too big for the road.
So is that like our winter sand supply?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Supposed to be.
So we have
Yes, supposed to be.
3 ingredients. We have that sand, we have the fine gravel that gets mixed with that, and then we have a separate salt.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So salt is separate from sand.
Yeah.
Salt has its own budget line and sand has its own.
But in theory, we've bought enough sand at this point and screened it to last us next season. If there is
In
one.
theory, that's correct.
Okay. Or next season. Okay. And then further down, 13,000 for trucks 23514.
Tires. Is that Pete's? Is that Pete's?
No, it's Lowell.
Oh, chains, that's chains.
13,000 just for truck chains.
Just for
But you
chains.
do have chains somewhere else in here too. I was really struck with the cost of the chains. Okay, so that's chains for
Or
all of those
those
trucks.
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah, from Fairfield LLC, we have chains for truck number 2. So truck number 2 is on here twice.
Okay.
Okay.
Bill or I put the wrong truck number on one of those. Truck number 2 is the. That's truck number 2.
Is that the 4-wheel?
No, that's number 16.
Okay. Okay, not big. Jimmy, you picked up on the 2 items I had. Acquired anything? Comments?
Didn't see anything.
Okay. Tom, are you set with that?
Thank you, Tom.
And all in favor of approving the invoices up through today, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. I would like to propose 2 adjustments to the agenda. I would like to defer item 5, the town manager job description, into our next meeting. We have a fairly robust slate of topics tonight. Okay. And I think we've been remiss in getting the changes. So we'll put the pressure on so that we have it done before February.
I mean, I'd point out that we have a job description currently.
Yes.
It's dated, but one exists until the new one is adopted.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. Okay. I don't know if we need to vote on deferring that or just the second adjustment. I'd like to are 2 budget items. I'd like to add to all business. One is for the fiscal year 24, 25 budget. We included the appropriations for the various community groups. And so we need to amend the budget to take out those appropriations because those are voted on separately.
Okay.
And second, I'd like to just have a brief discussion for a plan of action on the monies from the topic that we don't talk about, the American Relief Plan Act. So I'm not sure how to say that.
The FY23 surplus.
Okay. Okay. And so if we'll add those, we'll take away the discussion of the job description and add the budget discussion on that part. Okay, moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to go on to the report from the architectural firm that we hired to look at both this building, Damon Hall, as well as the recreation center, to identify a number of ADA issues, water penetration, and a few other items. So Martin, I'll turn this over to you to have the JASW representative.
Yes. John, how you doing tonight?
Hi, Martin. I'm good, thank you.
So John's been working on this. We started this project in the springtime. John had some emergency family, so that's kind of delayed it a little bit. He's back on track. We went over it 2 weeks ago now, and I emailed everybody the bullet points on the board. And John, I'll give the floor to you.
Yep, thank you, Martin. So I just want to thank everybody for their patience. This has been sort of a long year for me, but I'm back at it. I was able to review this with Martin, and what I propose tonight is that I'd like to walk through the scope and talk about all of the miscellaneous items for Damon Hall and the Recreation Center that we're looking at as a part of this project. Is screen sharing enabled? It is. I'm going to start with Damon Hall, and I'm going to jump around a little bit, but it'll generally follow the memo that I wrote. So a primary issue with Damon Hall, as I think most folks know, is that the basement floor where you're all at is lower than the sidewalk at the side entry. And what that means is that water backs up into the side vestibule. So very simply described, what we propose doing is installing, I'm highlighting it, a new underground pipe that will take water away from the side entry area and deliver it to the existing catch basin in the parking lot. Furthermore, because of the intersection realignment project, we know that there's some water ponding in this area, and we've extended that pipe. The goal of this scope of the work is really to give water a faster way away from the basement floor level. We're proposing to replace the sidewalks. They're partially broken up and they're not accessible, and they need to be, as this is the primary accessible entrance to the building. Briefly, this existing catch basin was videographed with a scope. We found that it enters a perforated pipe and percolates into the ground, so we feel comfortable delivering this water into the catch basin. The bottom line here is that we're not adding water to the site. We're just giving it a different path. And ideally, that path is away from the building. We'll pause for...
Yeah, Joe, this is Phil Hobby. You mentioned the changes that have happened with the change of the parking area in front of Damon Hall, and making that is now paved. And is there going to be a new, not catch basin, but a new entry to the catch basin in that area? Or
that's what we're proposing. Okay. That's what we're proposing. We acknowledge that that area maybe wasn't fully considered as a part of that project, and that the previous grading issues weren't resolved. It's our intention that I think we have a solution here, and we just want to do it to make sure that we're addressing this when we can, rather than a few years down the road when we say we should have done it.
Thank you.
So that very briefly describes the exterior drainage issue. The next thing I'm going to highlight, when I spoke with David last spring, we talked about water and moisture intrusion into the basement. There's two things that he pointed out, and unfortunately the basement walls have been painted, so it's not clear, but we talked about water stains on the inside of the basement where you're all sitting. We also looked at the condition of the windows in the basement that are right at grade. What we want to do here is, just like the previous scope I described, is give water faster way away from the building. So that we have along the perimeter, and I'm highlighting it, I hope you can all see it, this highlighter, all the way around the building. We're proposing to remove the concrete splash pads, which, although do direct a considerable amount of the water away from the building, we do feel that some water splashes back onto the windows and onto the brick and does penetrate the ground right outside the basement. What I've highlighted is a stone and pipe detail, a crushed stone detail that will give the water a place to go. It won't go down to the footings, or it won't hit the foundation wall, because there'll be a plastic membrane, and there'll be a perforated pipe inside that stone detail to direct the water away. I briefly talked about the windows in the building. The windows are in okay condition. I didn't observe any rot or deterioration or disintegration. However, they do appear to be in the neighborhood of 40 years old. It's likely that they need to be replaced sometime in the near future. Part of this project, we're going to look at the cost of that. And I should back up and say that we're looking at a lot of items and we're having them cost estimated. so that we can come back to this conversation with knowledge on scope and knowledge on cost, and be able to make the right decisions for both of these projects. So from my perspective, oh, yes,
When you say windows, are you talking basement windows or?
just basement windows. Just the windows that are impacted by the water at grade.
And one other important question. Is it Ottauqueche? Is that the right
Yes, it is.
pronunciation?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Good, thanks.
So part of this project is to look at a menu of things that needs to be done to both of these projects. And I think the reality is there's a budget, and we're going to look at what the scope is, what the needs are, and make a determination what's the highest need. So while, as I said, these windows at grade are not significantly deteriorated, it's still worthwhile to know what the cost would be to replace them. I'll just wait a minute before I go on to the next piece. A pretty significant element of this project is the front stair to Damon Hall, the side stair to Damon Hall, and the front entrance to the recreation center, which I would guess that most folks are familiar with. The issue here is that, and I'll be as brief as possible, but the issue here is that the wing walls are constructed of concrete masonry units, concrete block, which is very porous. And over the years, the salt has penetrated that concrete block. There's no coating or paint or membrane that we can put on that block to prevent the disintegration of the block, because the salt has already penetrated that material. As a part of this project, we're acknowledging that this is a very extensive replacement or repair scope. So there's two things we're looking at doing. One is a wholesale replacement of the wing walls, of the railings, of the main stairs. And this is the replacement that I'm recommending. We're recommending using cast-in-place concrete, which is less porous, and replacing all of the elements so that this isn't a recurring issue, which is what I understand it to be. That will be one cost from the cost estimator. From a comparison standpoint, we're looking at what it would take to repair these 3 sets of stairs. And I'll say out loud that repair will not last as long, nor will it be as aesthetically pleasing as a brand new stair. But as I've said previously about the windows, I think it's important to look at what the alternatives are and what they cost. I don't pretend to know that I'm the decision maker here. I just want to make sure I'm giving you all the right information to make the decisions.
So John, can I ask a question? And I don't know, given the fact that we've got a historic building here, if it's reasonable. But what if you cut the wing walls and just had them where the landing is and replace the stairs with granite? Would that be feasible, less expensive, more expensive?
I won't say what it'll be expensive wise. I think that any scope of work to repair these stairs is going to be extensive. The concrete work, whether it's the concrete block, granite, the digging and excavation, the demolition, I think is going to add up. It was my intention from a design perspective to replace in kind. So it's visually the same. There is likely a design consideration, as you pointed out. Is there an alternative solution? That's not something we pursued. That's something that we can look into in the future phase of this project. But I'll go back to my previous comment that I think that there's going to be a considerable amount of money spent on repairing these stairs, regardless of what the material or procedure is.
Excuse me 1 minute, John. We spent $15,000 on those 2 years ago
On
the front stairs,
Yeah.
and it's
We
already
also spent money on the rec
in the
center.
rec center, and the front stairs going up them on the right side, the Queechee side of the road, is already broken open.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Yep. I'll move on if there's no other questions.
You said the extensions, when they poured the steps and everything out here, were cement block?
That's correct.
I mean, like with mortar and block?
Yep, 8x16 block, and it has a parge coat.
But I thought when I was observing from the town clerk's office, they were pouring concrete out there, but maybe I was asleep those days. But
I would have.
Tell right now.
huh?
Thank goodness we can't tell right now. It's not that bad.
The disintegration in at least the rec center stair is clear that it's concrete block. Off the top of my head, I have photographs of all of the conditions. Off the top of my head, I don't remember if there's different materials. Concrete used, for example, in Damon Hall. I can double check that certainly. But I will say that all three sets of stairs are showing the same and similar deterioration. I'm going to move on to Damon Hall. That completes the scope. Excuse me, not Damon Hall, the rec center. That completes the scope of what we're proposing to Damon Hall.
So John, I thought I saw you were also going to repoint chimneys. Is that right?
That's yes. Yep, that's a minor piece of it.
Is there any other potential leakage around, first floor, second floor windows?
That reminds me. Yes, thank you. I'm going to move up to the rec center, Damon Hall. The roof of the side entry. You can look out the window from the first floor and picture, snow and ice melt backing up. And it's pretty clear that there's very likely water infiltration through some counter flashing because it backs up so much. So I'm proposing to rebuild that roof just outside that entry so that it can shed continuously off that entry roof. David told me that water would flow down the vestibule wall adjacent to the vault. And I suspect it comes from that, freeze thaw snow backup on that small roof, kind of tucked in between the main building and the vault.
Are you aware that there's been separation of the vault from the main building, and there are some markers in the brick right now to track that?
I am aware of that, but I have not looked at that closely.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to move down to Damon Hall.
Rec center.
Yes, thank you. The rec center. There's some similarities with this building. First, I'll obviously point out the stair we just discussed. But from Route 12 down to the rec center, the front lawn slopes straight towards the building. And unlike Damon Hall, it's pretty clear that the windows in the basement at grade are significantly deteriorated from being so close to the grade. So what we propose with this project, this portion of the project is, again, it's the same gravel and pipe detail around the uphill side of the building and around the sides here. Same intention is to give water the place to go rather than to splash onto the windows and percolate into the ground and through the foundation wall. Just like Damon Hall, I want to know what the cost is to replace those windows. They are original, and they are visibly deteriorated. So that will be a part of the cost estimate. Part of the site portion of this building, there is an existing underground drainage pipe approximately where I just drew the highlight That was also video scoped and is broken and clogged with sediment. So this project proposes repairing that pipe and giving this catch basin a place to go, which, as you can see, it comes all the way down to the back of the property. I'll highlight that again so it's a little bit clearer, and down. And that's the intention of that, is to collect water on the front of the building, move water away and around the building, the same as Dayton Hall. Are there any questions on that scope?
No.
Okay, thank you. Now there's a bit more of an architectural component to the rec center, and let me just bring up. I'm actually going to come back to all of you so I can see you. The primary issue with the rec center is that the building code does not allow a daycare occupancy on the second floor of the building, nor does it allow an assembly occupancy, which is the after-school programming, on the second floor of the building. What this ultimately means is that to continue those programs in the building needs a sprinkler system. I reviewed this condition with the Division of Fire Safety, Fire Marshal, to make sure I was right, because I don't make that recommendation lightly as to that scope of work, as it's quite expensive. Before I go any further, oops, lost you. Any questions on? Hearing none. Let me continue.
So, John, I have a question.
Yes.
Is there alternatives within that building to move things to the bottom floor for some of the things that are on the second floor? Did you look into that at all?
The scope of my study was to do a code review and then to present that. So I haven't looked at problem solving yet. The sprinkler is kind of the easier thing. But to answer your question, if we were going to move programs around, I think the answer is that the second floor just could not house a daycare or after-school programming. So if there's a way to move those programs to the first floor, and I should clarify for everyone, you go up those big steps and you think you're on the first floor. From the building code's perspective, that is the second floor, because it is so far above grade. So when I say first floor, I mean the basement, which is very close to grade. When I say the second floor, I mean the floor with the gym, with the offices, with the daycare. So I think to answer that question, that upper floor would essentially need to be vacant. There is a gym upstairs, which I presume is used by that after-school program.
It's actually used for adult classes as well.
So I said earlier, assembly occupancy. I think that would very likely also include adult classes.
Yeah.
And if the school was on the first floor, it's still recommended to have the sprinkler system?
I don't think that would be required. It might be good practice to have it. I'll offer that because Hartland doesn't have a municipal water supply, backup storage tanks, a fire pump, and a backup generator would also be required as part of the sprinkler system. Another piece of the scope for the recreation building is the non-operational lift inside the building. I'm proposing that lift is replaced with a lift that is the same size, which is important because it's my intention to not have to rebuild and enlarge the hoistway. So I'm proposing a lift that is similar that will become operational and make the building accessible. There's a handful of other minor items that I've proposed for the building, such as gutters. The rear stair that goes up to the daycare is really not code compliant in many ways. So I propose a new stair up to that second floor, up to the upper level for clarity. I talked about the windows. When the fire marshal visited the building, he gave a list of items that need to be addressed. The majority of those items can be included, such as adding doors to frames for fire separation purposes. So we'll be able to include that work in this scope. That concludes, if I've missed anything, there's a lot of little pieces of scope here I've tried to collect, but I think I've hit most of the pieces of this. The next step, as I've mentioned before, is that these drawings are currently being cost estimated. I'll get that cost estimate back. I'll review it. I'll present it to Martin. We'll look at all the different, what does the lift cost? What does the sprinkler cost? What does this and that and so on? So we'll be able to look at what all the parts and pieces of this project and their costs.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. My colleagues on the board have heard me talk about this, but I look at the rec center and the library as kind of the hub of our community for activities. The board has always been inclined to support childcare businesses in town, recognizing the importance of childcare in our community. And we have a very successful after-school program that's being used. I have friends that come to the rec center as adults for doing classes that, and there's no room for that. And we're out of office space. We really have a dilemma where there's no available space here in David Hall. We're using kind of the bullpen in the rec center for multiple people to sit in. So there's a confluence of I'll just call them opportunities, and not much money, but we have some hard choices as we look at your findings with rec center, especially to before we start moving things around the floor. I think we really need to better understand all the potential options and where we want to be in the years ahead on that part. So Jim, any comments? Clyde, any comments for Joe or Tom? Any comments?
I guess it's more of a question, and I'm not sure if you can answer this, but what, are we up against a hard deadline to make the rec center compliant with code?
So that would be.
I don't know that I have a good answer for that, but I'll talk about it. I think that with any non-compliant building, from the Division of Fire Safety's perspective, it's their intention to want to see it brought up to code. That doesn't mean that they'll come down and do a visit and place a date, because in my opinion and experience, they know that everything you're all grappling with is what many public buildings and municipalities across the state grapple with. They'll very likely want to see progress made in some manner. And as I told Martin, simply hiring an architect and exploring what's required and the options is progress. But I won't, I can't say that, if there was a fire tomorrow, what would happen. I can only speak to the problem-solving portion of this topic.
So before you begin the engineering work that would produce the documents that ultimately would enable cost estimates, I feel there's an awful lot of open-ended questions that need to be possibly discussed with you and the board. So how do you see going forward with this project?
let's take Damon Hall for an example. That scope seems to be fairly straightforward. And it seems like, based on some of the questions here, most folks are in agreement with that approach. This month, I'll receive that cost estimate. And if Martin said, yep, or the select board or Martin said, yep, that's within our budget, then I would produce the construction drawings and engineering drawings for construction. And then we would bid it out and go to construction to complete that scope of work.
Okay.
That's likely for this entire project. The most straightforward scope. But as you pointed out, it sounds like there's some organizational questions that are worth exploring before we pull the trigger on, a new sprinkler system in the rec building or a new stair in the rec building. In that case, maybe there needs to be a committee or additional meetings to discuss these topics. At which point I'd certainly be helpful. I'll be happy to lend my expertise.
But we'd still need cost estimates, right?
The cost estimate is in progress now, so it is coming.
Okay. Okay. Any additional questions for Joe at this time?
No, I'm thoroughly depressed now.
Yeah.
I do this too often, and I am sorry, but yeah.
You don't get invited to a lot of holiday parties.
No.
A congressional earmark now that we need it for. Okay. Okay. Tom, any questions for Joe?
Just the cost estimate, is that just for Damon Hall or is that for both buildings?
Both buildings.
Both buildings, okay. And when do you think we might have those?
Within the month. I'd expect
great.
it in a couple of weeks, and then I want some time to look through it and make sure it's complete.
And are you going to provide us with what you consider to be priorities as far as what, as you said early in your discussion, we're probably not going to be able to do everything all at once, but I think it would help us to move conversation forward if there was some priorities as far as what might be able to get done. Just some thoughts as far as with the cost estimate.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to earn me an invitation to next year's holiday party. Accessibility, life safety and code, and water control are all number ones, are very close 1, 2, and 3 on the priority list. Which ones are most important? That's probably probably the life safety and the sprinkler concerns at the recreation center. But I think, as you can all see, the damage that water does to our buildings, and certainly the liability with non-accessible buildings. So not a great answer, but all 3 of those things.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. And I think we need to move on.
Yep. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Okay. The next 2 agenda items are different variations of the same topic. We asked Peter Gregory from Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission, our Regional Planning Commission, to come this evening to talk a little bit about the appeal process that the Regional Planning Commission is undertaking. And hopefully we'll have a better understanding of the relationship between the Regional Planning Commission appeal and our own Planning Commission appeal. But those are 2 separate items, but they'll be complementary. Peter, can you please come up? Peter, just today there was a piece I caught as I was driving back to the house on the noon program on public radio, and they were talking about the Peace Farm and Woodstock, and the ongoing discrepancies and expense on all parties' part to finally get that resolved, which is not resolved yet. So as I listened to that, I realized we've been 14, 15, 16 months, we've been a long time into the farm stand kind of project. And now we're in appeal phase. And I'm wondering just if you could begin to update us as to where things stand from your perspective and the Regional Planning Commission's appeal.
Sure. Again, I'm Peter Gregory from Two Rivers, Ottauqueche. The Sunnymeade project was given a permit back in September. October 12th, Two Rivers appealed that because we still felt that the application did not satisfy two of the criteria in Act 250. One is 9L, which is settlement patterns, the sprawl criterion, and the other one was 10, conformance with local or regional plans. So we appealed on both of those criteria.
Mhm.
And where we're at now is both sides have submitted statements and questions for the court to consider, the things that each side wants answered. There was a scheduling conference in late November, early December, where the court gave the Sunnymeade attorneys until February 1st to file some findings on those questions. And then the regional commission's attorneys have another 30 days to respond to those questions.
Mhm.
And the Sunnymeade attorneys have requested the court decide on summary judgment, which means that the facts of the case aren't as much in dispute. So that could be, you know, the way this goes, and they never have a hearing in open court.
Yeah, Peter, when you mentioned court, is that the environmental district court, or is that actually a Vermont court?
It's a Vermont environmental court.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where appeals to Act 250 go currently.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a lot more detail.
Yeah. And I don't want to go into the kind of the sticky areas here. The 9L, help me better understand the sprawl aspect of that.
Well, 9L was changed by the legislature maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago from a criterion that really wasn't used, didn't mean much, to one that was supposed to complement town and regional planning and the goals in the law. Compact settlement separated by rural countryside. So it was designed, at least legislative intent was for that criterion to judge projects where they are from a locational standpoint, either within a village or a settled area or the outside.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's 9L. There was some guidance developed by state agencies to kind of help district commissions and courts interpret that.
Okay. And what's the relationship of Two Rivers appeal to our own planning commission's appeal?
Well, as you know, on Act 250, a town select board and also the planning commission are each statutory parties and can participate as parties by right. Mm-hmm. And so is the regional planning commission. You know, our appeal is tackling 9L and 10. It's my understanding that the Hartland Planning Commission is very interested in criterion 10 as it relates to the town plan. Mm-hmm. And is, you know, attempting to defend your local plan that you folks adopted.
Okay. And are you aware, are you both using the same attorney or separate law firms?
We had retained our attorney, and then the Hartland Planning Commission approached the same attorney about doing similar work, or complementary work.
Okay, good. Okay. Questions for?
No, I don't think so, but see if my interpretation is correct. So your real focus is the regional plan, and then the planning commission's focus is the town plan. So it's not like you're doing the same work, you're coming at it from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, yes, definitely. That's a good interpretation. Yeah, different angles. Yeah, we're not defending the local plan. You know, we've got the regional plan. I think the both plans have similar thinking about, you know, sprawl and those but yeah, different angles.
Okay. Am I being optimistic when I hear you say that it's almost like within 60 days we may actually begin to get a ruling?
Well, it's early January, so you should be optimistic. I mean, we have a whole year to go the other direction, but it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. It depends on how the court reacts to the findings that each side submits. You know, whether or not each party is comfortable with where the judge ends up, because it could conceivably go further, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And are you involved in the Woodstock case at all, or is that just at the village level and the town level?
Well, it's Act 250. That's what it's at right now. They've got their local permits. So we're again statutory parties. We have the right to participate, but with that project, we were never, the location of that restaurant was never inconsistent with our regional plan. So we never raised any issues about that kind of use in a rural area.
Okay.
And then we won't, they have a hearing coming up in January.
Right.
Okay. We may attend, but we will not be, you know, submitting any testimony.
Okay. Good. Tom, are you, any questions out there?
No, I just want to thank Peter for his clarification on this, and you know, we just have to see what the court decides and what's offered. So this is kind of the typical process for Act 250 appeals. But you know, just to clarify again, or to reiterate, the regional plan, is different than the town plan. So Peter really can't be, or Two Rivers really can't be representing the town of Hartland. We're using their town plan. It's really more of a responsibility of the local planning commission to do that.
Okay. Good. Peter, any other thoughts you'd like to leave us with, or?
Not on this issue, but happy to be here to clarify. You know, I live too far away, as you know, so happy to do it.
Okay. Good.
All right. Hope it was helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Thank
you. And then we have the planning commission. I don't know what, yeah, Dan. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. I guess you should identify yourself.
Dan German from the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission. I don't have anything much to add to what Peter said. It pretty much sums it up. Maybe the only, it's important to understand that if the Regional Planning Commission prevails on their argument that it's inconsistent with the regional plan, the project gets denied on that basis, and it really doesn't matter what the court wouldn't have to rule, or the reverse could be true. They could rule that it's inconsistent with our town plan, and they wouldn't reach the issues with the 9L. I also understand that they challenged the validity of 9L in general, which my understanding is that there might be many other towns of planning commission.
And I didn't follow. Who's challenging the validity?
Sunnymeade has filed it. One of their arguments is that the entire section of 9L is invalid because it's too vague.
I see. Yeah.
So and so, you know, that would be a big outcome. Mostly, you know, I've been our attorneys advise us, the courts would try to not reach that issue if they didn't have to.
Mhm.
So we would be, looking at it, but that would be sort of, if Sunnymeade loses on every other provision, they can still argue that 9L goes out, although if they lose on the Article 10, the court wouldn't have to reach the 9L.
And you had a request tonight? You had a request?
Did I have a request?
The planning commission had a request for $10,000 retainer.
Yes, he was on vacation and he hasn't gotten back to me yet, so I let it, I haven't talked to him since we last spoke.
Yeah, the expectation was is as bills came in, we thought we would be paying
Well,
that.
Yeah, I think we had signed, we made a motion to allow $10,000 to be spent.
Right, but I was reached out that you folks wanted to send $10,000 to the lawyer for a retainer.
Have the retainer.
Yes,
Right.
that's
That'd
what
be
you're here for tonight.
That'd be a smart way to approach it, right? Do the retainer, if you don't spend it.
Yeah, that's a fairly standard practice. But I haven't had a chance, I have nothing to report on it because I haven't had a chance to speak to him,
To the lawyer.
to Red.
Right.
So Phil,
Yes,
Bill.
Tom.
in my 30 years of doing this, we have never paid a retainer to an attorney to represent us in an Act 250 appeal. Generally, they do is they bill on a monthly basis.
Well, that was my expectation too, Tom. I was quite taken
And-
back when Martin asked for.
As I said in my the last month, the attorney that the town and the regional planning commission is using is also our office attorney, and I would certainly call him. But I don't think that they're going to be asking for a retainer. Or I'd be very surprised and try to talk Peter out of doing that. Peter Raymond.
So Tom, help me understand why it wouldn't be a good idea, to have the money set aside and then get it back if it's not used.
Why do we want to tie up $10,000? As Peter said earlier, there may be a summary judgment. This could just be a matter of several $1,000s and we're done. And they just, on a monthly basis, they bill you and you just pay them. So I don't see any benefit to providing money up front. I always like keeping my money in my bank account.
I tend to agree, and I think that was more your reaction on that part. But again, until we know more, there's no need to.
We haven't talked to him at all.
Yeah.
We just thought that it would be more prudent just to make sure that for our sake and for his sake, to have that commitment made, but if that's not the standard practice.
Okay. Good.
Phil, if I may, Dan, I spoke about this at the last meeting, how I feel that the select board and the planning commission needs to continue to have communications with us and actually develop so our communication is a little better. I was surprised to see on one of your agenda items tomorrow night having a discussion about our motion regarding the money for this at your meeting tomorrow night. What's of concern to the planning commission that's actually an agenda item?
I think it was just the only thing I can say personally is that I just thought it was just part of an ongoing discussion about what our commitment is and the financial commitment we can make to these deals.
Well, we made that motion. Your minutes reflected that with even showing what the vote was, which I was surprised to see.
And that's why I try to clarify the motion at the beginning of this meeting. I guess I'm going to be blunt about this. If the planning commission has a problem with what we did last week, I feel it would have been much more appropriate that you came to us tonight, not the day after a meeting, to have this discussion. So and I apologize, Dan, you're like the sacrificial lamb on this stuff. So, but I hope there isn't concerns about this, because I think it's very clear what the board's intent is on this.
I can't speak that there's, I don't know if there's a concern because I haven't heard from the other members, but but my understanding was that it was just a further discussion of where we stood.
Okay, thank you.
And we certainly, we would encourage any of the select board to come to our meeting and, so.
Okay, well, I hope we're able to keep the communication pathways open. Peter, thank you for contributing. Dan, thank you for the little that you know, but it's I think that's part of where we are right now. Is I think we're all waiting and wondering what's going to be next.
Yeah, there's going to be briefs filed because the thing is going to, my understanding, the momentum is going to come after they make their filing. And
when Sunnymeade comes back to your responses
and request summary judgment, that that's when our response has to come in.
Okay.
And that's when things are going to pick up. The court has arranged it that they go first. So
okay,
that's what we're waiting.
Okay. Good.
Great.
You'll set.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. Let's go on to the Conservation Commission. Rob, thank you for coming tonight. Peter, thank you.
So I'm Rob Andrew, and this is Doug Gill. Last fall, Robin Mosher stepped down from the Conservation Commission, leaving us with an opening. Martin posted on the listserv at least a couple of times that there was this opening, and we had 2 people express interest in joining. We asked both of those people to come to Conservation Commission meetings and talk to us when yes. And then at our last meeting, we, the commission, talked about the 2 candidates, and we felt that Doug was the one that would bring the most to the commission at this time. And so we'd like to make that recommendation to you.
Okay. And Rob, I think you indicated that the second candidate actually removed their candidacy.
Yeah, so after we met, after the commission met and said that we were going to recommend Doug, I let both candidates know that. The second candidate was a little uncomfortable with the process that we had engaged in. And he felt like he didn't really want to be on the commission anymore. So he said if there were future openings, because that's one of the things I say is, we encourage you, if we have future openings, to come back again. And several of our members actually are people who were not recommended the first time around and they stayed with us. He expressed some frustration and said that if we had openings in the future, he would not be interested.
Sure. Okay, good. Doug, would you like to say anything or add to it?
Sure. I'm just, excited about the opportunity to work with the Conservation Commission. If you guys see that fit to that, and I'm excited about the prospect.
Great, good. Questions?
This just goes back to my days of working for Avis Rent-A-Car. Obviously, you don't live in P.O. Box 244.
Oh, okay. I thought I put my street address down there too. Now I live on Bird Hill, across the road from Skunk Hollow Tavern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, did you say what road do you live on?
Bird Hill.
Okay.
Across from the Skunk.
That low bridge.
Yeah, I had to think about that one.
In a log cabin. I assume.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. So I think we can just make a motion since there's only one candidate, if you're comfortable.
I think that. Well, I would, my glasses on first, I'd make a motion that we appoint Doug Hill to the Conservation Commission.
Great.
To finish out Robin Mosier's term.
Yeah, so Robin's term was set to expire in April of 2024. So we would ask that you appoint Doug to finish her term.
Right.
And then in April, we'll come back and ask.
Okay.
For its own term.
Sounds good. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Tom. Welcome, Doug. I look forward to having your participation, and it's a great commission, and hope your kids get well soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, we deferred the conversation on the town manager job description. The North Hartland School Committee, I would like to just offer an update and an appeal. We, as folks likely know, we formed the committee last fall to look at the actual schoolhouse on the town property in North Hartland. And we, as a board, created a charge where we were looking for a committee to come together, primarily North Hartland residents, a select board person, and a rec committee member. Kimberly Gibbs has stepped forward to be chair of that group. And we decided that since things were backing up into this holiday season, that this January we would start that group, which we have some members. And I guess my appeal tonight would be if any Hartland resident would be interested in working with that committee to better understand possible uses of that of the schoolhouse. I please either contact myself or Martin or Miss Gibbs directly. And I look forward to just having some community input onto what we do with that property. Yeah, I don't have anything more to say really.
Well, she had posted on the list asking for
more membership.
input.
Yes.
The thing that still bugs my craw is that it's the quote historic building. Well, we tore down the historic school.
Yeah.
And this is just a one-room building to cover the baby boomer influx of the 50s when there were so many kids in school.
Right. Yeah, it's important to know. And Clyde, you'll be able to contribute that because you're on the committee. And I think one of the options we looked at, just from the fact that the building's in pretty rough shape, is to maybe sell it. So from looking at, can we renovate it? How can we use it?
Ideally, we'd use ARPA funds for the surplus generated from using those funds, but given the expense of Damon Hall Rec Center, it seems like a long shot. Yeah.
And John Leonard said he would be on the committee.
Yes, that's great, because the athletic fields are in good shape.
Yes.
And we're looking to do that. Okay, anything else on the school committee? So we'll just stay in touch with the existing group and try to get some additional members. Moving on to the additional agenda item under old business. Martin, I'll let you open the discussion on the
FY25
budget that we passed.
Yes.
Okay.
So on the FY25 budget, I didn't catch it. I apologize. I'd like to amended a motion. We voted on a budget with the appropriations of $178,982. So if I take that out, the actual budget is $2,055,243. On the spreadsheet, it's on the very bottom right. I'd like to amend the motion if you would be so kind to,
I'll make a motion that we nullify our previous budget motion and adopt a budget for fiscal year 25 without appropriations
correct.
for $2,055,243.
Perfect, thank you.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Martin, do we know yet how many of the requesters for appropriations are looking for an increase?
I have two so far, well, one new one and one supposedly going to change, but we've heard nothing in 2 weeks.
Okay. What's the deadline?
I believe January 15th is the deadline, because we gotta get it to the printer by the 18th, 19th for the warnings.
Right. Okay, so we don't have warrants.
In the articles.
Right.
We got most of the articles put together, so we can get that out to the board.
Okay, any other discussion?
So
They're still leaving the
but our next meeting,
page the way it was,
Yes, nothing changes.
what day is our next meeting? Is it the
The
15th?
16th,
16.
Which will be a day
Because,
after.
right, but the
Let's do-
15th is Martin Luther King, so they won't be open, so we can do the articles that night and get it to the printer. That gives us a couple of days, just in case. So they'll have to get it to us by that Friday. Michelle will be emailing them, I'm sure.
But is there, forgive me, if we go through this once a year and this is only my second time through, is there a statutory requirement that we have it locked in by a certain date, or is this just to keep our schedule?
Up to 45 days before the meeting, within 30, but up to 45.
And it's 45 days for a petition, if somebody brings us a petition.
Correct.
So as long as the petition is in on time, we're
Yes.
good, we can do the articles.
That's correct. So if we do the articles on the 16th, that gives us about
Then
50 days.
I think, I don't know, Phil, just throwing out an idea, we should probably see these articles, knowing that
Yep.
some of the appropriations may change. Any articles that we think we're gonna vote on, we ought to see like
Yeah,
really soon.
I get them typed up. I can email them to
Yeah,
you.
because if there's something in there that, requires any meaningful discussion, we might want to do a meeting between now and the 16th.
Correct.
I'll get them out to you then.
Yeah. Okay, Martin, you included the highway budget.
I just put that just for, that's all set. The highway was fine. It's just the general fund budget I needed.
Then, are we ready to vote on that motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nay?
Tom says
for it.
yes.
Okay. Ayes have it. Thank you. Second, is it discussion that I think we're going to collect more information and come back at the next meeting. But do we need a motion on a town meeting to finish the direction?
Reclaim our money.
So FY23 had a surplus, X number of dollars. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. So I reached out to a lawyer, as you folks asked, to what we can do with it. So we can put an article for town meeting that states the select board can also ask the voters at the town to approve appropriating the surplus funds for a particular expense. We know what the expenses are. They've been approved already by the board. Particular expense in FY25. Any proposed appropriation must be for a valid public purpose. They are for a public purpose. We know the scope, we know the projects, so the board, we put an article out for town meeting and they can vote that X number of dollars of that surplus can be used in FY25 towards those projects.
And if that's voted down, what happens?
The surplus then either goes back to the taxpayers or goes to a reserve account,
So
but it has to be voted on.
again, I'll propose this for the board. I started to do research on this, I don't know, a couple of months ago, reached out to Two Rivers, who I believe came and explained how to do the, allocation towards current expenses.
Yes.
So we lock that in. I reached out to Two Rivers, I reached out to VLCT. And the direction I got was, what's your town policy? And I don't remember which of the two organizations said that. And from one organization, they said, do what your auditors tell you to do. When we asked this question to the auditors, they said you can assign the funds. They didn't say, you needed to go and do an article to assign the funds. So I think if we have time to do this, what I'll try to do is consolidate those email responses. Maybe we can fire that off to the lawyer, do a quick call with them and say, this is a little different than your typical surplus.
Right. This
is money that we deliberately.
This was from Mariah Smith. It has the 4 bullet points from the statute.
Right. But I would argue that this might be different than what he's used to. It's not your average surplus, right? It's a little bit different than.
No, it's a surplus.
It's a surplus created by spending ARPA money on current operations.
Correct.
So it's a little different, and the auditors kind of give us a different spin on it. So I think it's just worth having that discussion with them and saying, listen, it might be the same answer.
Right.
But here are a few additional facts to consider.
Yes, what we're trying to do here is we've gone on public record as to what we want to use the monies for.
Right.
And right now, since we've had this accounting change that was recommended by various sources to do it, we want to continue to be as transparent as possible with where this money is and how we plan to use it.
Yeah. If you get that email to me, I'll take care of that right now.
I'll have to try to piece it together tomorrow. Maybe do a quick call with you. We can get it off the lawyer and schedule something with him on Wednesday.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
So
tomorrow is Wednesday.
Oh God, I lost a day.
You did.
Let's get it all done tomorrow. Well, depends on
Thursday,
his
Friday.
schedule.
We got 3 days. Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, so we passed the one item. The second item is just a discussion point.
Yes. Did Tom have any input on that, or
he raised his hand? I thought he was just waving to us, but
No, I'm fine with that.
okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Good.
Can I make just one other comment here? We should probably state that when we come back from an executive session, we will take an action tonight.
All right, you're getting ahead of yourself. We've got to, yes, I've got that mapped out very clearly. Then having no new business, let's go on to the town manager.
It's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks. As you can see, I don't have much to report. The new oil tank has been installed at the wreck. They had to put it up against the wall because there's a hollow floor in there because it's the old coal chute. So why the other tanks didn't collapse in, I'm not quite sure. So if we do have to put a second tank in there, we'd have to fill the floor. John and I talked about it, probably putting hard pack in there and a sheet of plywood and some cement, and it should level the floor if we have to put a second oil tank in there.
So are they inside or outside?
Inside. Otter Creek, Craig Jewett is our engineer for our Jennyville project. He is moving on. He has left the company. So our new engineer is Brent Rakowski, who has taken over the project. We've met through email and I've talked with him a little bit. And we finally got our red F550 back from Dalton's Automotive. They got little things fixed on it today that weren't done at Dalton's, and they put some new tires on it. I signed the approval for SG Reed, so when the insurance company pays to fix the 6-wheeler, it's a SG Reed. The check will be directed to them instead of to us, and then we send it to them.
Okay, so we're still short one vehicle.
We're short one truck at this point now. Yep, we're still down one truck.
May the weather hold.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what their turnaround time is?
I don't, I haven't even, we've been asking for a quote to see how much it's gonna be. I reached out to VLCT and, Bill reached out to Reed's and we haven't heard back yet. So we're just trying to see how much the estimate is on the truck. I'm sure the turnaround is probably gonna be 60 to 90 days, like everything else.
So not this season.
Probably not this season.
Do you feel like you have enough capacity with the rest of the trucks?
Yes, yeah. That new truck that we bought has been a huge help.
Great. Any other updates?
No, that's all I got.
Any correspondence?
I had no correspondence.
Okay, I don't know as well. Then we will move into executive session. We'll be asking Tom General to join us, and there will be an action so that we would ask our JAM person to sort of
All right, then we've returned from executive session at approximately 7:03. I'd like to make a motion that we ratify the new town manager contract with John Broker Campbell.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, Tom. Motion passes. We'll sign that now. I'll let you put the date in.
Okay.
And why don't I go on to the announcement? I'm happy this evening to announce that John Broker Campbell will be Hartland's next town manager. John will start on February the 5th, 2024. The Select Board conducted a national search spearheaded by Tom Yannerl, Municipal Management Services. Tom coordinated the search efforts, and the search process began this past July. In total, 8 candidates were interviewed by the board and staff. I want to thank our staff for participating in these interviews and providing excellent feedback on the candidates. John has worked in municipal, county, regional, and state government positions since 2007. We are excited to hire someone with the experience that John brings in the town manager position. A press release will be available tomorrow morning on the town website with additional information. I want to thank Martin Dole for serving as interim town manager since last winter, as well as the entire staff for keeping the town operations running smoothly. Thank you. Any other comments?
I'd like to thank Tom Yannerl for all his help and guidance through this process. You made it a lot easier on us, Tom, and thank you. Appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. It was a pleasure doing it. I'm glad that we have it done. It certainly took a lot longer than we thought, but we're here, and I think we have a good manager on the way.
Yes, I think we're all share the enthusiasm, and we're ready to go. It's been a long late winter, spring, and summer, and fall, and here we are again. So, okay. Hearing no other agenda or comments, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Do you have one other?
Oh. I am sad to announce tonight that our colleague Mandy Potter has stepped away from the board. We want to thank her for her years of service, and especially with her chairing with Tom as co-chair the Safety and Policing Committee, and bringing that work to an end. So thank you, Mandy. We'll miss you.
All right, then at roughly 7:08, I will make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Night, Tom.
Hope you get better soon, Tom.